let's just take breast cancer. Many women, unless you do have something devastating like triple negative breast cancer, will get diagnosed. They'll get diagnosed early and it's very survivable, but then they have an early death because of the chemo and the radiation. The heart disease, all of these things create inflammation. They are very toxic to your body. So, if I had something benign, and I guess if it's benign, why are you getting it removed? You're getting it removed because it's cosmetic, or you getting it removed because it's impacting your day, or you getting it removed because you don't know it's benign at that point. But to me, I would call things, benign is benign.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to, the way that I approach autoimmunity. Conventional medicine shuts down the immune system. And instead of supporting the immune system to right its wrongs. And so why are we, when we have even something that is cancerous, not looking at the foundation and say, what is going wrong here? Do we have an overburden of, toxins? Do we have a leaky gut and we're eating a bunch of foods that are inflammatory to us? Are we living in a place that has toxic mold or working in a place that has toxic mold? Are we right under, a cell phone tower? Do we live near the airport and we're being exposed to toxins? What is going on? Are we in a toxic relationship? Do we have trauma from our childhood? Have we, what has happened to us that we got here, and how can we correct those wrongs to get the body back in balance? And so again, I can only speak to myself and what I thought that I might be faced with. And I was going to go to a place that did just that, right? That if I needed low dose chemo, I could have it.
We are back and we are chatting with Dr. Amy Myers all about super important stuff. And this is the stuff that's been top of mind for me because, as I said, they found this lump in my breast, and then I had to start making decisions because I luckily didn't have a doctor that rushed to biopsy. She just said, if it's still there in 3 months, we're going to have to biopsy. And I waited a little longer than 3 months so that I could do some of the things I wanted to do, like red light and sunlight and all these things, and hope that this wasn't what we thought it was. And listen, after COVID, I feel like all these things have popped up for so many people. So I was like, let's just see. And after that, I realized the dangers of these mammograms and stuff. So I was like, okay, I have to come up with a new plan. And so I'm in the throes of it, and I'm really excited to know about this place in Scottsdale you were mentioning.
It's a QT scan.
A QT scan. So I will be adding that along with my thermography, and I'll continue to do my ultrasounds and my exam with my doctor, and that's going to be my protocol.
The QT should replace your ultrasound because it's a high-powered ultrasound.
Oh, okay, got it.
So,
if you would be so kind to share with the Heal Squad whatever blood tests you come up with as you're creating your concoction, because we all learn from each other, that would be great. And then I will tell you the gadolinium issue. So when I was helping this woman who had this benign cyst in her nose, and they said, you need an MRI with gadolinium every 3 months. This is where I have a hard time. And they wanted to do preventative chemo and radiation. And this is a really big facility. This wasn't just some whatever hospital. And I just said, well, let's just look at it like with our brains for a second. They said they got it all out. Why would you radiate healthy tissue? Why? That's the thing that just doesn't make any sense to me. And so if there's nothing to even, by the way, I hate it even when it's focused on something, because they say, oh, it's very focused. I'm like, yeah, that's what you guys all say. And then everything in the neighboring areas are destroyed, but everyone makes their own decisions. So I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And so for me, I'd rather be very vigilant and watch what's happening in my body. And if I get any signals, then I'd go back and then I'd take according course from there. That's how I kind of am approaching things. When we talk about the gadolinium, I had a real life experiment this year. So I had Dr. Jack Cruz on my show last November, and he came and consulted with somebody because there was somebody who had the same tumor I had, and they had a very big celebrity friend that I was friends with. And I said, listen, this guy's coming from El Salvador, and I feel like you should talk to him, bring her in. She's a very, very ill girl. And he was like, you got to move to El Salvador. She's like, I can't. I have a kid. She's 12. She's got her friends and this and that. He's like, you got to get to the equator to heal. And so then he came into me and he was like, he said the same thing. He's like, all these things you got going on. He's like, you're not going to make it. You got to go to the equator. He's like, but you won't listen to me. I go, no. You don't understand me. I listen. And I will do anything it takes. And I consider myself almost like the person who has to go try this because I have more resources than most. I knew I had everybody at home that would be able to take care of Athena, and I could go and do this. And I knew I needed to be here for her. So I went to the DR. I did 2.5 weeks of sun, grounding, a little sweating, and then sleeping, I think like at least 11 hours a night. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like 7 to 7 almost, most nights, 7:30. And in 2.5 weeks, first of all, they thought I had liver cancer. They were like, oh, you have all these lesions now that have just appeared. We need to biopsy you. And my gut, I listened to in that moment. And I said to the doctor, I don't think that's what I have. I feel really strongly about this. I think, this is what I said to them, I think this is the accumulation of all the MRIs and PET scans, because when I look at it through common sense, and guys, don't be afraid to use common sense as your guide. Just because people have doctor degrees doesn't mean that your common sense has nothing to do in this equation in terms of like assisting you and guiding you. So I said, when they bring in the PET scan stuff, potion, whatever, they're in hazmat suits. They don't even want to smell or touch this shit. And then they're injecting it into me. That doesn't feel good to me. Mm-mm. And so I said, I think that's what it is. I think my liver, now there's no spleen in my body. I think my liver's having a hard time processing all this stuff. I had also been red lighting for 2 months before that too. I was like, I'm going to go to the equator. And I went to the equator and I did this protocol that I just kind of created. And I came back, and within 2.5 weeks, all the lesions had shrunk.
Wow.
And within 3 days, I was back in the DR because I was going back with Kevin, and I was like, I needed a little bit more time. I'd committed to doing a month, but because I had these scans, came home in between. By the time I got back, I was exhausted, couldn't open my eyes. My legs were like concrete sticks. Like they were so rock hard, stiff. I was in so much pain. My blood sugars were through the roof. And yet
Here?
when
you went back?
I went back.
Okay.
Just right after the MRI
Yeah.
and the PET scan. So I went from blood sugars almost healing, eating whatever I wanted, barely having to do insulin, feeling great, energy levels getting better and amazing, to just now the complete opposite.
And in the meantime, you had had another MRI?
Yep.
Okay.
So it took me a minute. But as I sat there a few days, Kevin kept joking that he was with me now and I was allergic to him. I go, that's not it, honey. I Googled and I said, does gadolinium raise blood sugar? Yes, it does. Oh my God, that's why my blood sugar is so high. What else did gadolinium do? Oh, it leaves deposits in the brain and throughout the body. And I said, holy shit. These lesions they're seeing throughout my body are probably from the MRI gadolinium. Mm-hmm. And yet they're thinking it's cancer, it's tumors. You can call it a tumor, you can call it a lesion, you could call it a softball, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't cancer. It was more than likely, because I don't know, of course, 100%, because of this. And the effect of the gadolinium was so loud, and the PET scan, that I needed to do another 2.5 weeks to just get through all of that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, still cleaning out. I'm still cleaning out.
Are you doing coffee enemas?
I haven't done them yet.
Have you ever done one?
No, I've never.
Okay. Yeah, I was super intimidated, had all the stuff.
I looked it online. It looked so complicated.
No, I will explain it to you after this.
Okay.
I even brought an enema thing for my 2 weeks out here in California.
Explain it to the Heal Squad, because they're all doing MRIs. Okay. Everybody needs it. Let's talk poop, guys.
Let's talk
my favorite subject.
Let's talk coffee enemas. So, I mean, you can just buy an enema bag on Amazon.
I'm going to hold you right there. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking enemas and how to do it at home. All right, guys, back to the enemas. Here we go, Amy.
Okay, again, no expert. This is just my several weeks of doing them. So there are two different types of enema bags. There's one that's like a silicone one, I guess they're plastic ones, and a metal one. I opted for metal just because silicone, even that, I definitely didn't want plastic. I'll show pros and cons along the way. The pro is that it's metal and that it's not going to have anything toxic to go into your body. However, you cannot see the amount that is left. So, the silicone one, you can see how much you have left. You want to use filtered water. We're fortunate we have a whole house filter. If not, reverse osmosis or buy some filtered water. Heat it up to about body temperature. Now, this is the part that gets intimidating. They tell you to mix this coffee and brew this coffee and then make a jar. And then I saw a video from somebody that said that they just used, which is a coffee that if I drink coffee, I drink, is the Chameleon organic cold brew coffee that's concentrate. So I just bought unflavored plain, and I take a tablespoon of that, put it in about 3 cups of warm water.
It's already brewed?
It's already brewed.
You buy it on Amazon?
No. I mean, just at Whole Foods or Target. I mean, they sell it everywhere now.
Like in a glass can
or something? In a glass. It's in glass. It's been checked for mycotoxins. It's organic. It's literally coffee.
Okay.
And it's already brewed and it's already concentrated.
Okay.
So if you heat your water up, then you can just put the cold coffee that you literally might be drinking iced coffee and doing a coffee enema with your coffee.
God. How much coffee?
About a tablespoon of coffee and about 3 cups of water. Okay. You hang I use a shower. You get in the shower, you hang the bag up high. It has a tube to come down. I put a bath mat down and you can use coconut oil, some sort of organic oil for insertion. And then the tubing has basically a switch that will allow, it to come fast, it to come slow, and you can just sort of gauge it yourself how much. So
now, are you on all fours when you do this?
Yeah, I'm on all fours.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then the goal is to then lie on your right side because it's getting up to your hepatic vein to get into your liver to help detox. It's supposed to increase your glutathione levels by 100%.
So you'd lay on your left side because your liver's on your right.
Well, no, you lay on your right so that it will go up to your liver.
Oh, okay. You'd have to lay on there. Okay.
Yeah. You're laying on your right. I mean, I can't always make it. I mean, you're supposed to hold around 3 cups of water for 15 minutes. I have not been able to do that yet. So
wow.
I suppose you could do less and hold it longer, or do the full amount and hold it less. So I'm working my way up. I personally have not even gotten to 15 minutes. You definitely want to do it in the bathroom because you will have an urge, and then you will release. Be sure to take some sort of binder as well because it is releasing toxins. So something like, I have a product, coconut charcoal. You can get, some sort of binder on Amazon.
And what does the binder do?
It helps bind toxins.
Oh, so everything will come out together.
Yeah, well, as it's coming out, so some is going to come out in your stool, but some will be released into your bloodstream. So that is circulating in your bloodstream, it will get picked up by the binder.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. And then that's it. So you try to hold whatever liquid goes in your rear for 15 minutes or as much as you can.
As much as you can.
And how many times do you do this until the bag is empty?
You let, however much you can hold or until the bag is empty. You then lay down on your right side.
Okay.
I usually
listen
put on
to Heal Squad.
Yes. No, literally I do. I put on a book on tape or music, to help distract you. And then you will have an urge. And it will be pretty significant, and then you will release all the toxins.
Okay,
and
I'm doing this.
I mean, really, once I saw the iced coffee thing, the iced coffee trick, it's just like, do it.
Okay.
And how regularly do you do this?
Well, I think it depends on your circumstance. So, when I was thinking that I had cancer, I was trying to do this every day, as well as get in my sauna and other things for detoxification. I'm on vacation and I have a child, and so I've probably done it 4 times since I've been here. So, my goal is 3 to 4 times a week on average.
Yeah, this is what we did with my mom in Mexico. But I'm going to start doing this because I have had... So then this is the other problem. I told the doctors this. Of course, they're like, okay. They don't even really... I'm like, guys, look at this. This is significant. If all of these shrunk, don't you want to know what I did so you can share it with other people? And so... And I said, and why are we not looking at how many MRIs and monitoring to make sure that we're not ODing here? Because I also have the brain tumor still. So then they want to do brain tumor MRIs every year. And I'm like, no, I can't do it every year. And I'm like, I know my body so well. And I know the pains that I have. And I know if a new pain pops up, that maybe that's the moment to go check and see what's happening. But I have to monitor this myself now internally so that I don't have to do all these external things that are just going to make things worse. But it leaves deposits throughout the body. And I didn't want to say this before, and I'm glad that it's happening with you, because I don't want people to say, oh my God, Maria's saying don't get MRIs with gadolinium. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to have knowledge of what these really do, because you have to be the gatekeeper for your medical care.
Risk benefit.
And then you have to do risk benefit, and you have to think, okay, what are we going to do? But this is why my mission is to teach people to be the CEO of their health, because the more you learn, the more this gets demystified, the more you realize that you can't just lay your care in everyone else's hands. Then you can start making better decisions, and you can start doing more investigative work. What's around me that I could do that could be different? Or how could I tackle this in a different way? And we'll continue talking about this here and coming up with different solutions. Like, you're on this journey now, so now you're going to be able to help people on this journey. And that's kind of what I've been doing. But it's really scary when they make it seem like it's nothing to go get an X-ray, or it's nothing to get an MRI with gadolinium. And I didn't know why, and it took a while for me to feel good after the last one, the one before this last one. And, it took an extreme commitment of really dedicating myself to my health in like a full-time way. Nobody has that time.
No. I mean, we're both mothers.
Yeah.
And I know that we both have help, but
Yeah.
you want to be a mother, and you want to be there for your daughter. So I run a company, I'm a mother, and having a health issue. Each one of those things is a full-time job.
Yeah, and you don't just have one health issue. You've had a lot of health issues.
Yeah.
And so have I, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. And the Heal Squad who's listening is in the same boat with less resources. And so it's really, really challenging. But the more we know, the more we can do, and the better we can do. And so I'm really glad that our conversation was steered this way. And I really want, Nike, I know you're listening in the booth, I really want you to transcribe this episode in a way where the Heal Squad could listen to this and enjoy the information, but then everything is in the description for them. All of the resources she's mentioning, all the tests, the blood tests, everything that we can be doing so that it's easy. Because I know even for me, I am so diligent about my health, but to go back and listen and take notes is so annoying. It's already so much work to just get through this every day. So if you could make sure to make like the cheat sheet for this in the description, that will be really helpful. Are you on board?
More than on board. I'll definitely connect with Dr. Amy after this and make sure I have everything correct. But I think that's a great idea for everyone.
Do the whole list, send it to her for her approval so you don't add something in that she didn't say.
Yeah.
But I think that would be great. In the meantime, I do want to shout out all of our amazing supporters that help us do this. Macy's, of course, has been with us for many, many years now. We're really grateful for their support. So friends, back to school is upon us. The holidays are upon us. I'm trying to put together a fun event for everybody where we can come in and do some styling for that holiday party you've got coming up, because it's never too early. Kevin has already gotten our Halloween costumes. Very proud of him for that. But they have a free personal styling service that I highly, highly recommend. And of course, I have all of my favorites on my wish list. You can just go to the podcast description and check it out. Lots of fun things. I mean, I'm always just blown away at some of these amazing pieces. And it's like, oh, this is $11. Like, thank you, Macy's. I love you. Wonderful Pistachios, another company I love and became a huge fan of through my husband, Kevin, who constantly had pistachios in his bag. He annoyed me with them a lot, and then I got addicted, and now I'm annoying. And now I'm the one who has more than him, and he steals my stash. But they have been my go-to on long days. By the way, I highly recommend this, Amy, because you're on the go all the time too. They don't melt, so you can keep them in your car, in your purse. And then when you need that protein hit, it's just a clean little protein hit. 1 ounce serving, 6 grams of protein. So I really, really love them. I throw them into my salad for extra protein there. If you guys want to try them out, go to wonderfulpistachios.com. I highly recommend the little snack packs, because then those are just like bite size, easy, one and done, and you go from there. All right. Any final questions before we start to wrap this up? And we're going to have you come back to talk about mold, but we ran out of time. Dr. Amy's gone through so many mold things, and she'll give us the cheat sheet on what mold tests we're supposed to be doing, because I don't know if we did them all right.
I want to go back to what we talked about in part one. What is your opinion on, you have something benign and it's removed or it's handled, and they want to give you the preemptive chemo and radiation?
Well, I think, again, I learned through the work of Jen Simmons that, let's just take breast cancer. Many women, unless you do have something devastating like triple negative breast cancer, will get diagnosed. They'll get diagnosed early and it's very survivable, but then they have an early death because of the chemo and the radiation. The heart disease, all of these things create inflammation. They are very toxic to your body. So, if I had something benign, and I guess if it's benign, why are you getting it removed? You're getting it removed because it's cosmetic, or you're getting it removed because it's impacting your day, or you're getting it removed because you don't know it's benign at that point. But to me, I would call things, benign is benign.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to, the way that I approach autoimmunity. Conventional medicine shuts down the immune system. And instead of supporting the immune system to right its wrongs. And so why are we, when we have even something that is cancerous, not looking at the foundation and say, what is going wrong here? Do we have an overburden of, toxins? Do we have a leaky gut and we're eating a bunch of foods that are inflammatory to us? Are we living in a place that has toxic mold or working in a place that has toxic mold? Are we right under, a cell phone tower? Do we live near the airport and we're being exposed to toxins? What is going on? Are we in a toxic relationship? Do we have trauma from our childhood? Have we, what has happened to us that we got here, and how can we correct those wrongs to get the body back in balance? And so, again, I can only speak to myself and what I thought that I might be faced with. And, I was going to go to a place that did just that, right? That if I needed low-dose chemo, I could have it.
Oh,
but
what was this place?
Well, where I would go now, now that I've done even further investigation, and I have not gone, so I can't speak, and this is another person you should absolutely have on your podcast, Dr. Keneally, Lee Erin Keneally. She's in Irvine.
Okay.
Actually, I have several things to tell you after this that are a little bit more experimental that I don't feel comfortable putting in the podcast.
I always wait. I don't share anything until I feel a little safer about things, because people trust us. And we have to be really careful with that. So I appreciate that. But
Lee Erin Keneally apparently has the largest integrative oncology center, our largest oncology center outside of a hospital, and she's in Irvine. And so she is a conventionally trained physician and also a functional medicine physician. And I know they do low-dose chemotherapy. They do EBO, which is like ozone, but they use 2 veins, and it's a lot more, it's basically pulling your blood out, putting it through ozone, pulling your blood back in, so it kills a lot of infections and, gets rid of toxins. They use hyperbarics, they use high-dose vitamin C. There's another place that I looked into that was outside of Scottsdale that is, I think it was called Mesa, but they do raw vegan, so that was my one sort of concern about that. But they also do the low-dose chemo, they do, and it's an inpatient, so to speak, where you go and you stay there for 6 weeks. Dr. Keneally's, my understanding is, you'd have to get an Airbnb, and then they do a lot of stuff remotely as well. Yeah. So
that's like the place in Mexico I took my mom, Baja Medgate.
Yeah.
That was a live-in place.
Right. There's so much research about fasting, about the ketogenic diet, about fasting before chemotherapy. There's just so much, which, to me, that seems like should be standard of care, is fasting before chemotherapy. But it's not. You go and they're going to give you a sugary smoothie or something because you feel terrible.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's really unbelievable.
It would make sense. So with the starving, are you trying to starve the cancer?
Yeah, the first thing I did when I thought I had cancer is I literally did not eat for 5 days. I was like, I don't know what to eat, and so I'm not eating. And I literally went on a 5-day fast because then there was nothing to feed the cancer.
Yeah.
Now, again, people want to be.
Although when you go too far, from what I've been learning, the liver will start dumping glucose, and I think that's what I had seen.
Well, I mean, I detox daily. I take glutathione. I'm generally in my sauna. And I have been detoxing for many years as a functional medicine physician, and I've healed my gut, and I had all these tests. I know my gut's not leaky. So yes, the average person does not want to just like stop eating for 5 days or whatnot, because it's more about dumping toxins into your system and then your body being overwhelmed and not knowing what to do with them. I was taking a lot of binders. I was taking a lot of glutathione. Yeah. I know that my detox pathways are already opened. I know my gut is not leaky. I too know myself very well. I already intermittent fast. It was not a big stretch for me to get into a 5-day fast. But the average person, if you're eating, even a typical diet, not even just a SAD diet, maybe doing a 5-day fast is not something you want to jump right into, because yes, sometimes it can cause more harm than good. But, I knew the sort of state of affairs of my health, and that was something that would be beneficial for me, and I do believe it was beneficial.
So for someone who has a SAD diet, I love that term.
Standard American diet.
So do you go? Just
it is sad.
You just start eliminating? Is it just more of a elimination diet?
Well,
then?
I mean, that's kind of a larger. Are we talking in general, or are we talking cancer? I mean, in my practice, when I was practicing, the first, you do not want to detox somebody right away, because generally somebody coming in, they have cancer, they have autoimmunity, they have something. Generally, toxins are a way that they got into that boat. So in my world, the first thing I do with someone is heal their gut. And part of healing their gut is removing toxic and inflammatory foods. And of course, removing any infections that may be there, like SIBO or Candida, going in and replacing things like digestive enzymes, HCl if they need it, bile salts, and then repairing their gut with I have a product called Leaky Gut Revive. And so I really, in fact, I would tell people, if you're calling a clinic and they say, oh, you have heavy metals, the first thing we're going to do is detox you, I say run, because the first thing somebody should be doing in any of these scenarios is to heal their gut. In fact, I have a podcast, Take Back Your Health, with Dr. Amy Myers, and I interviewed Dr. Alessio Fasano, who is the researcher who, really has the most research on leaky gut, and they are the people who, found and named zonulin, the molecule that gets released when you have leaky gut. Happy to introduce you. And so when I interviewed him maybe 10 years ago, it was a theory that we knew that you needed to have leaky gut to get autoimmunity, and it was a theory that you needed leaky gut to have cancer. And on this conversation that I had with him, he said it is no longer a theory. It's quite well known in their research that leaky gut is a precursor to cancer as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Natasha.
Would you recommend going on like a ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting as preventative?
I think that those, yes, are excellent. I mean, there are some people, there is now a new thing out there, women in perimenopause or menopause maybe should be careful. Again, I think it just depends on your body and how you do. I was a vegetarian for 27 years. I was a classic eat a bagel with cream cheese and have a coffee. And within an hour, I literally could go nowhere without having snacks in my bag. Now that I've switched to, I am doing keto now because of my recent scare, but normally I do paleo, or what I call the Myers way, which is no grains. And, it is essentially a paleo diet, but also getting rid of the nightshades. And I have no problem. I had no problem fasting for 5 days. I don't have a problem, I classically intermittent fast. I had a smoothie just because I knew I was coming up here and I was going to be in 6 lanes of traffic driving through LA, that I, wanted to have a little something in my system. But so I think you just need to see, with your body. There are women, more classically women than men, but with adrenal issues, thyroid issues, perimenopause, that might have some issues with it, but I really didn't find that in my clinic, and I personally didn't find that.
What are the natural things that you like people to do with thyroid issues rather than taking a Synthroid?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm glad you've brought this up, because one of the things that I write about in my book, The Thyroid Connection, is that This is not a medication. And I don't want people to think of if they have a thyroid condition that requires supplemental thyroid hormone, it is no different than you as a diabetic needing life-saving insulin.
So Synthroid's necessary.
Well, no, I'm not saying Synthroid. I'm just saying thyroid hormone could be necessary.
Got it.
Now, if you are diagnosed and it's literally just starting to happen, yes, I believe that same thing with diabetes. If it's just starting to happen, you can reverse this. You can lower the amount that you need of insulin or thyroid hormone. You might be able to ward off for how long, that you don't need it for several years. But if you are the average person that is catching this after so much damage has happened to your thyroid, it's just like your pancreas. If the damage has already happened at this point in time, we don't know of a way to grow back your pancreas or your thyroid, so you may need supplemental thyroid hormone. I had Graves' disease. I did not know me. Functional medicine was not around really when I went through what I went through, and I had my thyroid ablated, so I have no thyroid. If I do not take life-saving thyroid hormone, I will die. So just like if you don't take life-saving insulin, you will eventually die. So there are a lot of people online that are talking about this as a medication, talking about getting off of this. And I want my message to be that if you are a person that needs to be on supplemental thyroid hormone, just like if you are a type 1 diabetic on supplemental insulin, or you have Addison's disease and you need, life-saving steroids, these are life-saving and they are not a medication, they are hormones. Now, I personally take Armour, which is desiccated pig thyroid gland. There's Thyroid, there's Armour, and then of course there's Synthroid, which is synthetic. Synthroid is just T4, and a lot of people can make the conversion to T3, particularly with all the proper nutrients, such as in my multivitamin. But someone like myself that doesn't have a thyroid, or if you are post-thyroidectomy for cancer or something else, I do recommend that you are on one of the desiccated forms because it has T4 and T3. I happen to take Synthroid and Armour. I take the lowest dose Synthroid. I take 50 micrograms. It's the white pill, so there's no dyes in it. And then I also take Armour, and that is because I need more T4 than I do T3. The problem, if there is a problem with with Armour or Thyroid, is that the T4 and the T3 come in a combined amount. And so some people, it's too much T3, it's not enough T4. You can go get it compounded at a compounding pharmacy, but, already like my insurance doesn't pay for it. It's, it's not expensive, but I mean, it's, more expensive than all my, $10, not all my,
To balance the,
yes.
So I'm on Synthroid, and I have Hashimoto's, so to balance the Armour and the Synthroid, I mean, is that trial and error just for me to?
Well, it's you to work with your physician to, see how you...
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Okay, when was she available? 6 months from now?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm happy to look at your labs for you and help you out.
Anyhow, so much amazing information.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, honey, you can.
You said something very interesting. You said very quickly about you have a daily detox process, and I'd love to hear what it is, even if it's weekly.
Yeah, I just think that we unfortunately live in a very toxic world. And so detox definitely should not be this, new year, new you, let me go on a juice cleanse, right? I've done it for 5 days. We should all be detoxing every day. And of course, look, I write about this stuff. This is not for people to get overwhelmed or to feel like they can't leave their home. I'm traveling right now. I literally was at Disney World yesterday, eating a burger at Disney World, right? The point is that I control what I can in my environment, and then when I go out, I make the best choices that I can. So yeah, I didn't do anything for detox yesterday other than my supplements. I was at Disney World, but today I'll get back on when I get home, coffee enema and things like that. I personally take, so I have some mutations. It's something called MTHFR, so I don't methylate, which is a process of detoxification, very well. So I take my product methylation support daily. It's a vitamin with methylated B vitamins, and I know that
I started the methylated B12 and it helped me so much.
Yeah. So I also know that I have a SNP at glutathione, so I don't make glutathione very well, and so I take the precursors to glutathione, which is my Liver Protect. I take glutathione. I have a glutathione product, and I take the methylated Bs. And those are kind of like my non-negotiables on a given day.
And that helps detox you?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Now, if you're, again, I'm on sort of maintenance, right? Like I'm out in the world and this is my daily maintenance. If you are actually literally trying to detox from something, you absolutely would want to add in some sort of binder. I have a product, coconut charcoal, or you want to get something on Amazon or, at Natural Grocers or Whole Foods to bind up these toxins. So I don't always take a binder because this is just sort of my natural detoxification. But if you're actually like, I know that I was exposed to something like you with these MRIs, you would definitely want to be taking a binder when you're doing this. And then, supporting, in your food choices, just supporting, broccoli sprouts,
Chia.
Various, fiber. Fiber is excellent for detoxification. And then if I'm at my house, I'm in my infrared sauna, doing red light.
What sauna do you have?
Well, let's have that conversation too in another
another episode.
Offline.
Okay.
So I mean, it depends on where I am and what I'm doing, but on a daily basis, it's a certain set of supplements, and then at home, it could be coffee enemas, it could be my sauna, it could be red light.
Got it. Would a steam shower also detox you?
Well, that can be
a moldy situation.
No. That could be a pro or a con. I mean, steam can, but if your water is not being filtered, then you're opening your pores and you're exposing yourself to more toxins.
Right? Yeah.
So if you have filtered water, that could be doing it. I personally prefer the infrared light. It penetrates deeper than the steam. But if you're going to your local gym and they don't have, or spa, and they don't have filtered water, or you don't have filtered water in your home, taking a hot shower, unfortunately, could be opening your pores and allowing you to absorb more.
So you're going to get us a water filter for the house, honey?
I am. Yes, I am.
Thank you. I'm sure Amy has one she suggests.
Yes.
And we will be done with that horrible little problem.
Yes.
Wow. Perfect.
Let's end on a high note of not
scary,
not something
what's the
that
high note we should end on?
The most is listen to your podcast, listen to my podcast, surround yourself in people that are helping to try to empower you to take back your health versus being a victim and just going with status quo.
Well, exactly, because you can go with status quo. This is the problem. The problem is we go with status quo because we're too afraid to take the reins ourselves. And we don't want to look like we made a mistake and feel like we failed, right? So sometimes we're like, well, this is what everyone else thinks is okay. So if I do it this way, not only is it easier, but no one will poo-poo on me if I do it this way. Because if you go over here where you take some autonomy over your health and you make some choices that maybe aren't the masses' most popular way, now you're opening yourself up for the arrows. Oh, well, look at you. You decided to do this. And now, I think that I see that with even people who are taking care of people. Like it was scary for me to make those decisions for my mom, but I had to make tough decisions at times. And the benefits, were evident.
Well, I said we were going to end on a high note, but I'm going to deter us a little bit here. I was thinking about it in regards to my sister, who has chosen to do, conventional. She's a conventional nurse, so that makes sense. And I was talking to my brother, and, I realized with the way that everything, with the algorithms of social media, with how many people like us are being filtered and not shown the way that we used to be shown on social media and things like that, and frankly, with the lack of freedom of speech, people are not seeing things in their feed. My brother's into biking, so that's what he sees in his feed. In my feed, I'm filled with, your podcast, Dr. Connolly and all her success stories. So to me, the number of people that are healing from stage 4 cancers naturally is, I'm seeing this every day in my feed because it's what I'm interested in. But with the algorithms, if that's not something you're interested in, and worse yet, you're really leaning towards the conventional, you're not being shown this. You're not given the option of like, oh, I saw that one little seed, maybe I am in. It's just not even coming to you.
Yeah.
And it's not in your universe. And that is being that is a decision that's being made by some algorithm or some being or some AI, which is even more frightening, right? I mean, the number of people during the COVID area that were speaking out about natural ways like ivermectin and, ozone and vitamin C to treat COVID. I mean, I personally know of many, many people who were sent letters by the FDA to,
Wow.
And so, unfortunately, I just steered cleared and just didn't mention it. I mean, I'll mention this here. Many years ago, 10 years ago, because it was right before my first book came out, I wrote an article on what you could do besides getting the flu vaccine. And the information that we had for the article that was all cited was things like eat fruits and vegetables, wash your hands. It had come from the CDC website. I got reported to the medical board. It was right before my book was coming out. It was a very scary time.
I just got the chills.
And my attorney, sent them a letter like she cited all this stuff. It came from the CDC website. She's not telling you not to do it. She's just telling you an alternative. And we already know, I mean, forget anybody's stance on a vaccine, just the flu vaccine, they're guessing at what the strains are. So, I mean, it's, of all the vaccines, that one's not literally directed at one particular, strain. And then it was right during the measles epidemic of this outbreak of measles. And so he thought they had 30 days to respond to me whether they were going to move forward or not. And they waited the full 30 days and then they dropped it. But it was 30 days of
terror.
And then I wrote an article because with my daughter, when she was born, we gave her vitamin K drops, which they widely do in Europe. And so I wrote an article about things that you could do, delay the bath, not, give the vitamin K shot, but instead do vitamin K drops. And I had a pediatrician write, in the comment section, she was going to report me to the board, and I had to pull it down. So unfortunately, I have a medical license, and if the higher ups don't like what you're saying, there are these threats. I have a license that can be taken away, and it's my livelihood.
Ugh, I have the chills.
And so, I can only speak to me personally, but I know many, many people that during COVID got letters. And so unfortunately,
I'm ice cold.
Yeah.
Literally my chills are so bad that I'm
the
ice cold
censorship
right
is
now.
real. Just for anybody listening, the censorship is real.
And here's the thing, I always say you have to do what you feel is best for you. So there are going to be the people who are very educated, who feel very strongly about going very natural. And that's great. And then there are people who are going to say, I really want to go conventional, and they'll have great results too. Great. Then there's the other people in the middle. Like for me, I was like, okay, with my mom, we're going to go a little conventional. We're going to go a little Eastern, like a little East meets West. And that worked for us because I did have a little fear. It was my first time. I was just learning. I hadn't been immersed in this the way I am now. And I still don't know if something came up with someone I love, if I would completely abandon Western and go totally natural, but without the proper guidance. So it's very scary. The whole point is you have to educate yourself. You have to know the realities of things, not just what you're, being
so
forced
just give us
into.
all the information and then make the choice. I mean, I definitely tell people when you're dealing with cancer, I lost my mother to pancreatic cancer. She lived for 4.5 months. And you have to make the decision that at the end of the day, you feel that you made the right decision for yourself. And no one else can make that for you. I think the censorship is real, though. So, knowing that this is a $1 trillion industry, just allow our voices to be heard and let people have a choice instead of not even exposing them to these other options, or not even options. Let's say you just go full out conventional, but what else can you do to support yourself? Can you get in a hyperbarics chamber? Can you go detox from sauna? Can you just fast for 24 hours before you go get chemo?
Do some high dose vitamin C?
Yeah. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, I'm not shunning, I'm a conventionally trained doctor. I'm not shunning that. There is great value at times, but there are all these other things that can support you as well.
That's a great way to end because we got options and healing is possible. And I feel like I am going to be the one shouting from the rooftops, and I'm doing it for myself, friends too, because I get discouraged sometimes. I told Kevin the other day, my blood sugars have been such a roller coaster. I had this moment the other day where I was like, I just want to quit. I can't do this anymore. And then I was like, well, that's not an option, Maria, and you're fine.
And then you looked in your beautiful child's eyes.
I looked at my little Athena. I'm like, there's no quitting. But so I know you can get discouraged, but healing is possible. And I feel like I'm walking this walk so carefully so that I can like learn the things to be able to help you kind of cheat sheet it so it's easier. But, you know, we'll keep on talking. And Amy, I would love to have you come back to talk about mold, because you've done so much. You've dealt with so much mold toxicity yourself, had so many health issues with it, and had to deal with a lot of that. And I want you to educate us on what you've learned in the next time we have you here. So thank you for being with us as always.
Thank you so much.
And friends, we're going to put everything in the description of this episode. Nike is going to be diligent for you. And Nike, thank you in advance for that. Natasha, thank you. Kevin, thank you. In the meantime, friends, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.